Jesus did this, the first of his signs, in Cana of Galilee, and revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. This, of course, comes from the story of the marriage of Cana in Cana, and you'll find it in John chapter 2. When I was 10 years old, I bought a book which a friend called Mary also bought. We went to different schools, but we lived close to one another, and we would talk about the story and where we'd got up to. We read it in parallel, a little bit like an ongoing book club. A couple of our other friends bought the book and joined in, but they gave up on it. Mary and I read the book to the end. The copy I read then, I still have. The book absolutely terrified me. Some years later, or some years ago actually, I started to reread it, and after all those years, I still found it to be very unsettling. The book was written in 1897 by an Irishman who was the assistant of the great Victorian actor-manager Sir Henry Irving. The book has never been out of print since it was first published and remains a bestseller to this day. It is written as a series of diary entries by different characters. The action of the book takes place in London, Whitby, and Transylvania. The author was Bram Stoker, and the novel, of course, is Dracula. If you have never read it and you value sleep, then don't read it on your own at night. Even in this knowing and cynical age, I would guess that it is not really a comforting read. So why have I mentioned one of the most famous horror stories in the world, with the story in St. John's Gospel of the wedding in Cana? Well, Dracula is a story that everyone knows, or to put it more accurately, think they know. If they've not read the book, they certainly do not know the whole story. The wedding of Cana is a story from the Bible that everyone knows, whether they're Christian or not. This is a story that is known by most people and is mentioned often. I'll bet that there are not many weddings and wedding preparations that take place where this story is never mentioned, made reference to or thought about at some time, simply because whoever is picking up the bill for the wedding reception will probably wish that Jesus was a guest and that he would or could have turned water into wine, and by so doing reduced the cost of the wedding considerably. So the two stories are really well known, and that is where the parallels between them stop, because these stories are about absolute total opposites. Dracula is, of course, a vampire who is sustained by drinking the blood of his victims. He drains them of all life as he drinks their blood. The miracle at Cana does completely the opposite. The miracle at Cana asks us to drink the new wine, the best wine, so that we will have life. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not encouraging you to go down to Tesco or to Sainsbury's or wherever and fill your boot with a few cases of wine. And then, as the person on the till says, as they always do, "Are you having a party then?" for you to reply, No, it's all for me. The vicar up the road told me to go and buy it and to drink as much of it as I can. No, that's not what I mean. What I mean is this. This miracle is an invitation to enter into the glory of God. It is a sign of the kingship of Christ and a kingdom that we are all invited to become a part of. St. John tells us that this was the first miracle, or the first of the signs which Jesus performed as his ministry began. Miracles are, of course, wonderful events which cannot be fully explained, and they are signs which direct us towards the kingdom of heaven. The first miracle takes place during a joyful occasion, a wedding. Weddings at that time were usually held on a Wednesday, and the celebrations would last for a whole week. For after the formal ceremony, the couple would open their house to friends and guests, and the celebrations would just go on. We know that at this wedding that the wine runs out. Mary, Jesus' mother, turns to him and asks him to do something. Perhaps these were relatives, and it will bring shame to the family if there was no more wine. So Mary wants to help out. Jesus calls for the water jars to be filled, and then he turns the water into wine. The steward is surprised when he tastes the wine, declaring, "You have kept the best wine until the last." He has absolutely no idea what has happened. The only people at the wedding who do know that something miraculous has occurred are, I would guess, Mary, the disciples, and the servants who have been serving at the tables. Perhaps Jesus performed this miracle as a sign to his disciples as to who he was. And I would think that the servants would have spoken about this incident, and that slowly, as Jesus walked the hills and wandered through the small towns and villages of Galilee performing other miracles, that the message of the love of God and a new way would have slowly spread out across the countryside. Back to Bram Stoker's story. After the visit of the vampire in the dead of night, after the vampire has fed, its victim wakes exhausted and with no energy. We're human, and we do get tired. And there are times when we need to be refreshed, re-energized, and renewed. There are times when we feel that we have reached the bottom of the barrel. There are times when we need the help of others to make us feel better. No matter who we have to help us, we need always to never forget that we also have God. God is always there to help us in our need. In John's Gospel, we're given these words from Jesus. He says this, "I came that you may have life and have it abundantly." And this is exactly what the miracles, the signs which Jesus performed all those years ago are there to show us, to make sure that we know and realize that we are never far from God. Now, today, at this time, we need all the hope we can get. This is a time when we all, I would guess, think about the things which really matter, the things that perhaps we took for granted and can no longer do, the simple things. And although at times we may feel that the wine has run dry, remember this story, and that the good wine will come again. It will flow. I think that the miracle at the wedding of Cana is telling us exactly that the best is yet to come. I believe that Jesus is saying, trust me, believe in God. God's love never runs out. It only gets better. It is there for you to take. So reach out and take it and believe. Jesus did this, the first of his signs in Cana of Galilee, and revealed his glory, and the disciples believed in him.